Easy now. Papa got things making headlines.
Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. I'ma have to cut you off, like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me tried the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they ain't finished change. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip. Yeah, you
Welcome to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, powered by The Athletic. Shout out to the company. My name is Michael-Shawn and I'm here with my co-host, Christopher Kidd. Make sure you follow us both up on the tweet machine. You guys know where to follow me. That's at Mike Dugar, Mikedugar. Also, shout out to all of our subscribers on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Seahawks Man, the number 2 man on YouTube. Appreciate y'all. Chris, talk to him.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206, and that's CKid206.
We are back with another midweek episode of the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, previewing week 4 with the Seahawks headed to Detroit to face kneecap Dan Campbell and the fighting Detroit Lions. He's not going to biting the kneecaps thing. He ain't going to live that down in this household. But Chris and I are not experts on the Detroit Lions, so we got one on the line with us, welcoming Colton Pouncy to the show. Colton making his debut, covers the Lions for The Athletic. Colton, what up, man? Welcome.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm happy to be here. How you guys doing?
Can't complain, man.
Told you before, we are recording this episode very early in the morning, way before Mike usually wakes up. So I gotta get going, but I'll get there. This is your first year covering the Lions, yeah?
Yeah, it is. Started like July 5th was my first day, so it's been a few months, and I'm still new to the beat. Yeah, for sure.
That's
you're coming from the college ranks, yeah? Yeah,
I was covering Michigan State for The Athletic for 4 years. Our Lions writer Chris Burke moved on. He's now leading like our NFL draft coverage. So created an opening not too far away, and I was happy to take it.
Yeah. So basically the ineptitude of the Lions drove Chris to editing. Is that what happened?
I think that's the story we're going with. Yeah. He just seen Matt Patricia and a lot of bad football and was ready to head out. But he's still around a little bit. He does our podcast every now and then, so he's definitely still involved. You can't get away from the Lions.
Yo, that's an underrated part about covering a not good team, because it'll do that to some folks. Like it'll drain some cats. I don't know if that's why Chris bounced, but yeah. I wouldn't blame him. Like, for example, people who subscribe to The Athletic notice we don't cover the Houston Texans anymore. You know why? Because our boy Aaron got tired of it. Yeah. With the nasty man over there, and I can't blame him. So like that effect of just losing and coaching change, man. Unless you're in a big market, that can be frustrating, man. But this is your first time covering the NFL, so what's that been like? What's the difference between that and college so far?
Man, it's been awesome. And I was telling people this, like when I really got started, like training camp is way different than what I would do for like a fall camp for football. So like on Michigan State during the month of August, they would give us like 15 minutes of practice to see like once a week for maybe like 3 weeks out of the month. And didn't see a whole lot. And yet we had to do observations and you're just like, this guy looks big. That's all you can really say. Whereas on Lions and NFL, like I'm out there, 5-6 days a week for 2.5 hours. You get to, I guess, a lot of observations you can make from what you see out there. I had Nick Baumgartner with me, so he's kind of giving me the rundown of the roster and guys to watch. And like being out there for basically a month really helped me learn the team as someone that's new to the Detroit Lions, and that helped me a lot. So just that time has been great. Also, leaving a college town in your mid-20s and going to like an actual city like Detroit, that's been fun. That was part of the reason for me. I was ready for like a change of scenery, and it's been dope. I got my guy James Edwards, our Pistons writer. We actually live in the same apartment complex, so I pass by him a lot. Like he's showing me around town, so it's been a lot of fun. I'm happy to be here.
Wait a minute, so you outgrew East Lansing? You saying that wasn't like the lit town in Michigan?
Like, here's the thing with East Lansing. So you got downtown Lansing, which is like the college area. That's where you see like 19-year-olds using their fakes to get in the bars. I stayed away from there. And then you got downtown Lansing, which is like the capital city. And it's a little bit of an older crowd. You got like some single moms out there, some like creepy dads out there. And I'm like, I don't want any part of that either. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle. So honestly, like being in Detroit, like that's what I wanted. So I'm happy for it.
Yeah, being in your mid-20s in a college town, like it sound cool until you realize you older than half the people you around all the time. So
No doubt.
I need to be around some other adults, man. So well, hopefully the Lions' ineptitude does not continue, so you can stay on the beat covering some playoffs and some fun times. Before we talk about Dan and Hard Knocks, man, did you start off your beat writing career with the Hard Knocks appearance with a cameo?
Yeah, not great. Not a great first impression. It was the first day of training camp. Dan's doing his like 8 a.m. presser, and I get there like I don't know, like half an hour, 15 minutes before. I'm like sitting front row. I'm like, all right, cool. We're finally starting. First day on the NFL beat. And then my alarm, which was set for 8:15, literally goes off 15 minutes into the presser. Dan has some fun with me, and we talked about it after. He was laughing about it. But Hard Knocks caught it. And honestly, before the episode even aired, I had a couple Hard Knocks like crew members come up to me and be like, yo, congrats on making the show, man. So I'm just like, all right, this is coming. And then, yeah, like 7 minutes in, I saw my name on the on HBO, which is insane. So I was just like, all right, well, that's one way to leave an impression.
That's hella dope, man. That was funny. I was gonna do a little cameo myself this morning and have my alarm go off during the show. And homage to you, Colton.
Why didn't we do that? You should have told me. We could have.
Yeah, you should have.
Nah, I thought it was a one-time thing. I thought it was funny, and we'll let it ride. But I enjoyed watching Hard Knocks, and I believed in Dan Campbell. He made me want to go out there and play football. And I'm not even, in the top tier to even think about it. But he was making me think, you know what? Yeah, today I can do it, coach. What's good? Yeah. I am curious. At the end of the Hard Knocks, I thought he had something powerful to say. And it was, they asked him, the young lady asked, hey, what will the 22 Detroit Lions, what will they be? And he took a long time. It was like, I think it was maybe 2 minutes of just silence. And he was just thinking, because every coach has something different to say. And he said the 2022 Detroit Lions will be the team that can and will.
Yeah.
How has his attitude and his style of coaching put this team in position where they are right now? I know they're 1-2, but the games that they've played, and I've only seen highlights, I didn't get a chance to watch the film yet, but from what I've seen, this team is really believing in his message.
Yeah, I think it's really resonating with this group. I mean, these guys love him, and they'll say that openly. That wasn't really the case with the previous regime here, so it's a bit of a stark change. But he gets guys to play for him. I think that's probably his biggest attribute as a head coach. He's a former player, so he's been in those locker rooms. He understands like the culture and what how you need to go about, I guess interacting with players and getting the most out of them. So you can definitely see that. That's probably the first thing that stands out when you look at what Dan Campbell brings to the table. But he wanted the team to be more competitive. Last year they had some games where they were hanging around, but obviously they started off like 0-8, and then I don't think they got their first win until week 13. And then they went on a little bit of a run down there, which provided some optimism out here about what this season could be. They went out and they added some pieces like Aidan Hutchinson. You see some guys take another step like Amon-Ra St. So I think they felt a lot better about the roster and where it was, this year going to last year. And in their minds, like we might not be fully where we want to be yet, but there's no reason why we can't be competitive in games throughout the season. We've seen that through 3 weeks so far. They played that Eagles game very tight. They only lost by 3, and that Eagles team looks like one of the best in the NFL right now. Week 2, they come back against the Commanders, get out to a big lead and end up hanging on there. And then last week on the road against a good Minnesota Vikings team, they're up 10 in the fourth quarter, and they just kind of blew it. And I think that's kind of one of the things that they're still learning to do is like learning how to close out these games. They're one of the youngest rosters in the NFL, so it's going to take some time to get there. And Campbell himself, I mean, he's still in his second year as a coach, so he's still learning some things. But you do see them more competitive in games. You do see them hanging around with some of these teams, and I think you see that the Lions are starting to get some more respect around the league. So they're on the right track, but still some work to do for sure.
Yeah, I will admit this. I was like a closet Lions fan last year. Dan had me so energized. Well, then also there was 2 things. Dan was super energized, and that was fun. I was like, all right, cool. He's very much, he read the room, whether intentionally or otherwise, like, because we mentioned the other regime, like guys hated Matt Patricia there, like it was like open. It was like, nah, this is just not working. This whole kind of Detroit version of the Patriot way, get that the hell out of here. So I was like, okay, that's cool for the players to get the opposite of that, because they probably needed it. Quandre Diggs kind of takes some kind of veiled shots at the Detroit organization every once in a while. The second thing is Dan's initial staff was black as hell. Yeah. They got a black OC, black DC. Their GM is black. Did they have a black special teams coordinator last year?
I'm not sure if Jay Phipp was around. He's their guy this year.
Because they got rid of what? It was Pep. No, not Pep. Anthony Lynn was their OC last year. Got rid of him, but the staff is still black as hell. So
it still is, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, come on, Dan. Figure it around. I almost jumped off the Lions. It's not a bandwagon. But when did he cry? He cried after a loss after week 6?
Yeah, they were 0-6.
Yeah,
somewhere over there.
Man, it's like if he's crying already,
it's going to be a long season.
Yeah, brother, that could be very, very long. Like you said, they changed some things around though. Made some personnel changes, got some new coaches in there as well. So what does Dan realistically expect at 20? What did he? Let's go back to August or whatever before the season started. What did he expect the 2022 Lions to be realistically?
I don't know if he had a record in mind because he was talking playoffs, and I think that's every coach should be one to be openly talking about making the playoffs and a winning team. So I don't know if he had if we win 7 games I'll be happy. It was nothing like that, but again, it just goes down to being competitive. One thing that they did in training camp, they practice a lot of late game situations. They're out there doing 2-minute drill for an extended period of time, at the end of each practice. Different situational football drills like that. I think Dan Campbell really wanted to hammer that point home. They lost some tight games last year because of those situational drills that didn't really work out for them. So he definitely tried to make that a point of emphasis. I think the reason why is because he's like, my roster is going to be more competitive than it was. We're going to be closer in these games than we were last year. A lot more one-score games heading into the fourth quarter. So we need to be prepared for those moments. And when teams battle back, if we have a big lead or us clawing our way back, we need to be able to finish these games and close out. So, I think if he feels good going into the fourth quarter more often than not, just because of what they've practiced and, I guess that fourth quarter, it's getting the most out of your guys. He can definitely do that. But it's just a matter of knowing what to do, making sure your players are all on the same page with your staff. So that's kind of been where they're at so far right now. But I don't know, man. For me personally, I see this roster as a 7-win team.
Oh, wow.
I did before the season. And part of that was because, okay, they're still young. How much, progress are they going to make? They've made a lot more than I thought through 3 weeks. But now the question is, they have all these injuries piling up. They don't really have the best depth. So I don't know. I think the fan base has kind of talked themselves into maybe 9 wins at this point, but I'm still not quite there. But they do have a chance if they can get some guys back from injuries and continue to show the progress they've shown so far through 3 weeks.
What almost reeled me back in I'm still in on the Lions, but what really got me back, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start paying attention again, was the scene where Jamal Williams he's damn near, was he actually crying?
He was. No, he was. Jamal's a dog. He wears his heart on his emotions out. Yeah, that's who he is, at all times.
That was pain. I could see the pain in that man's heart because he had never lost that. Somebody tweeted the stat, but he was winning in Green Bay quite a bit, and I think. Yeah. Did he lose more games last year than he had ever lost in Green Bay? It was something
he might have
comparable like that. And I was like, damn, man.
13 games he lost last year. So that I don't think the Packers have lost 13 games over however many years he was there. So that would make sense.
Yeah, no, it's been a bit. It's the contrast between, I don't know if you guys have seen the Bears fans who are kind of upset at what Justin Fields said after the loss there. He's kind of
which is dumb, by the way. Why are you gonna? A player should want to be mad at their own loss more than the fans. That makes perfect sense to me. But whatever.
Yeah, that was weird. But fans want players to have a certain amount of pain after they lose and look a certain way. I even saw some Niners fans upset at Jimmy G smiling when they lost the game to the Broncos on Sunday night. They want the players to look like Jamal. Yeah. They want them like that after every loss, crying and stuff like that. I don't mean to laugh, but it was kind of funny. I'm not.
No, because they're if I'm miserable, if I'm letting a group of grown men ruin my day, I want to ruin your day too. That's how they operate.
Yeah, that's a little. Fans go a little bit too far with that, but as a Wazoo football fan, I can understand because the pain just it kills me. But we're not going to do Cougs today. We'll go with Seahawks Lions. Last I checked, the Seahawks were 5.5-point underdogs, I believe. So let's roll with that. Time to make an early episode prediction. Colton, who do you have in this game and why?
If the Lions were healthy, I would have said the Lions, and I think I still might. It's just I have to think about it a little bit more because it doesn't sound like DeAndre Swift is going to play. I think they're thinking about seriously resting him for the next 2 weeks. He had a shoulder injury in the Vikings game on Sunday, which is a new thing. Was already dealing with an ankle injury that almost kept him out week 2. So he's been banged up early, and that's kind of been a theme with him in his short career. It sounds like the Lions, they have this game against the Seahawks, then the Patriots game next week, and then they have their week 6 bye. So it might make sense to just rest him the next, basically 3 weeks until week 7. He can come back healthy, and maybe you can make a run down the stretch. But it doesn't sound like he's going to be playing for this game. I mean, we'll see how he is in practice and everything, but it seems like they might take the cautious approach with him. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown's also dealing with an ankle injury, so those are 2 of your best offensive players. Left guard Jonah Jackson's already dealing with some things. He's missed the last 2 games, so they're pretty banged up right now on offense, and that's kind of their strength right now. I don't really trust their defense to, really get the stops when they need to yet. So, I still think the Lions have a good chance of winning just because Jamal is a good backup running back. The offensive line has kind of found some ways to, piece through these injuries. But I think it'd be a lot closer than people think. I think the Seahawks probably end up covering that 5.5. So
what's the score?
It was the score. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we can't let them off.
Yeah.
I was trying
to get away with it. First glance, and we haven't really dug into everything yet. I'll go 27-24 Lions.
Ooh, that would be them finishing the game out. All right. Let me see. What's the over under on this? Let me see if you got. We're big gamblers on this show, allegedly. Over under
lines or anything.
50. That's 27-20. Yeah. Okay. You got the over.
Just barely. Yeah.
Seahawks covering and the over there. All right. Let's go with that. All right, Chris. I'm trying to put you on the spot.
Nah. Last week I went second. Now you can go second. I'll go last.
No, you go. You gotta go, man. I bring it home. I'm gonna make a pick. I promise.
You always make a pick, but all right. This is very tough because I got it right last week when I went with I'm forgetting who the Seahawks just played, but they played the Falcons and they got the win. And I figured a turnover would be the reason. I didn't expect Mariota to hand the Seahawks not a turnover for a chance for the Seahawks to win and them not convert on that. But this is hard because if they don't have the sun god and St. Brown and their defense, they just lost their safety for the Lions. Yeah. And I don't know much about this team's defense. And you just said, I'm not really, you're not trusting it. This could be another shootout. But can Jared Montana, can he keep the hot streak going? Can he keep slanging it? I'm going to go with the Lions as well. And I'm going to say 30-21.
Oof. What did you just call? Did you just call Jared Goff Jared Montana?
Yeah, he's been slinging it, man.
Oh, yes. He's been slinging it like that. Hold on.
He's been good. I mean, he's
been slinging it, man.
Yeah.
Let me look at some of these numbers real quick. Let's see. 20th in yards per. 5th in touchdown percentage.
Honestly, the numbers don't even tell the full story because there's been a lot of drops. They've been running the ball a lot too. He's just been doing everything they've asked of him. So I don't know, man. I like that.
I'm rolling with Jared Montana.
Yeah, Jared Montana. Let's go.
Jared Montana is something. I was like, who is he talking about? I was like, he's not talking about Jared Goff, not the Goff I know.
Yeah, not that Jared Goff. Yeah.
All right, let's see. So it's on me. Let's see. I think I do our expert picks on The Athletic every week. I'm pretty sure I'm doing poorly. I
checked yesterday. You were 19-15. I think it was. You weren't bad.
Oh, okay, I'm doing
about 500. There you go.
That doesn't include week 3 because week 3 I was like, damn, Mike.
Did I do bad week 3?
Bro, you had the obvious teams winning, like the Chiefs. That didn't help you out. You picked the Titans game. You picked the you didn't pick the Titans. I'll just say that. Yeah, I saw a couple. I was like, damn, Mike. Yeah, you might be under 500 this week, but it's okay.
Oh man, yeah. I'm better like against the spread and stuff like that. Anyway. So I think I'm like, if we use spreads, I'd be like 2-1 or something like that. Instead, I'm like 0-3. But we're gonna go consensus here. I will take the Lions. I'm assuming that Amon-Ra St. Brown toughs it out with the ankle thing. I think the Swift thing you can overcome because like when you have a good O line, you can't just put anybody back there. Like me and Chris couldn't go for like 100 yards. Actually. I don't know, man. Seahawks D was pretty bad on Sunday, stopping the run. But yeah, I don't think you can put anybody back there. But I do like Jamal Williams. Like, what did he have last game, Colton? With like 100 yards, something like that? When
he had like 100 yards from scrimmage, total like 80 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. So
yeah,
like, good backup.
I trust them to get that done. I was surprised looking at some of the Lions' offensive numbers. I was like, boy, they are efficient. They are running the ball. really well. Jared Goff's protecting the ball. I think its interception rate's about like 1.8, which is about league average. But I mean, when you're running the ball as well as they are, you don't need to be at 0, and you're going to have some mistakes. Yeah, not throwing it super far, not super great in yards per attempt, but yeah, 5th in touchdown percentage behind only Lamar, Tua, Mahomes, and Josh Allen. Like anytime that's the cluster of dudes you're around,
good company.
Usually means you're having a good year. I think he's 10th in expected points added per dropback, which is basically, for my non-nerds, that's just a per play efficiency stat per dropback. So dropbacks, that would include times you get sacked, times that you scramble. That's why I like using dropback more than just like passer rating. Passer rating only counts for when the ball leaves your hands. When you're the quarterback, there are a lot of things that need to happen before it ever leaves your hands, if it ever does. Geno Smith is 8th, by the way, in EPA per dropback. Yeah, Geno Smith and Jared Goff being top 10 in like relevant quarterback stats in 2022, which is blowing my mind. I like the over in this too. I'll take the Lions 26. Actually, I like a push on the over under. I like 26-24 Lions. So I do like a close game. I'm right there with Colton on it. I think it'll come down to the wire. Two teams that still need to learn how to finish games, particularly the Seahawks. They're not looking too hot. I think they've what is it, Chris? They've lost their last 5 attempts.
Yes,
to close a game with Geno Smith.
When it comes to closing time, Geno hasn't answered the call yet.
Yeah, so that'll be rough. Colton's new to the show, but this question is not. I ask every opposing beat writer the simple question about their quarterback. So I will ask it to you, Colton. Is Jared Goff good?
Good on like a national league level, or good for what the Lions need him to do? That's
that question never gets any context. I just say it's so and so good that you can take that wherever you want to.
Yeah, I think Jared is good for what the Lions are asking him to do. I'll go with that route, because last year he came into a new environment. I mean, he was traded for a quarterback that ended up winning his former team a Super Bowl in year 1. That's tough, man. Like,
that's very
to
tough.
Watch another man go out there and do your job better than you did. Like, that's tough. And he comes to Detroit. He's wasn't really comfortable here last year based on what I've, talking to other beat writers. They said it took him a while to get adjusted to everything. Didn't really mesh well with Anthony Lynn's system. And then so they made a change around midseason to, like, Dan Campbell started calling plays. Ben Johnson, who was the tight ends coach last year, got more involved. He's now the OC. Goff and Johnson kind of spent the entire offseason kind of reworking this offense, incorporating some stuff that he did well in LA. Kind of building the offense together so that he would be comfortable. And that was kind of the big word with him this training camp. He looks a lot more comfortable, a lot more settled down. He looks at home now. He was saying that it's the little things, like his house is starting to feel like a home. He remembers some names of people that work around the building. He could say hi to them. It's like the little things like that you don't really think about, but he was starting to get there really this summer. And also it's just like building chemistry with his guys. Like him and Amon-Ra St. Brown last year down the stretch really went off together. He's got his guy Josh Reynolds at wide receiver, who was with him in LA. He's now in Detroit. They added DJ Chark from Jacksonville. So he's got some pieces around him now. TJ Hawkinson is back healthy. So he does look a lot more comfortable. And I think what the Lions are asking him to do, which is basically just a couple times a game, we'll take our shots. We need you to be efficient. We need you to produce when we get down to the red zone. He's doing all that right now. So I think they like where Goff's at. There's still some questions, like, is he the long-term guy? That I don't know, because they have 2 first-round draft picks this year. So if things do go off the rails at some point this year, they can maybe package 2 of those picks with the LA Rams pick that they got in Stafford trade, and their own pick, maybe move up, maybe make a trade for a guy like Lamar if he ends up being on the block. I don't know, but they've got some options this year. And a lot of it has to do with how Jared Goff ends up playing this year. So it's a big year for him, and so far so good.
What we saw, because Chris and I, we're both Wazoo grads, and so I've been watching Jared Goff since college, and then play him a couple times a year in Seattle, playing against the Seahawks. So I've seen him a lot. Jared Goff, I've seen a lot of good, I've seen a lot of bad. The consistent has usually been like Sean McVay simplified things for him. It's like, hey man, here's your read, it will be there, throw it. If it's not, you may be screwed. And that worked really well in 2017-18, and even 2019 as well. Are you seeing some of that where he's there? Mark Brunell and Ben Johnson have kind of schemed it up so he can get the ball out of his hands quickly without having to do a ton of decision making, or is it something different?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some of that. And I think just having a good offensive line around him, and they've, for the most part, held him upright. So he doesn't look like rattled or anything. Because that's the thing with Goff. Like, I think he can stand in there and make some throws when he has time. But it's like when you ask him to get outside the pocket and scramble and make something out of nothing is when he's pretty much screwed. You know, he doesn't have the mobility to make plays like the modern NFL quarterback does. So they've been keeping him upright for the most part. I think when he's just locked in and letting it rip and not overthinking things, that's when he's at his best. And that's really what we've seen from him so far this year. The first game was a little shaky, but really the second half of that week 1 game against the Eagles, and that's a good defense, so it's a little bit understandable too. But the second half of that game, the Commanders game and the Vikings game, he's looked really sharp. So he's in a good groove. He's got good chemistry with his receivers, and I think he's feeling in a good spot right now.
And he is a with Lamar Jackson for explosive completions this year with 18. That is not again, when you're clumped with some of these dudes, that means, you're playing really well. Chris, what we got on the Lions run game that's been helping Jared?
I am curious because, again, I haven't got a chance to watch a full game and see what the Lions are doing, but it seems like they're biting kneecaps at the line of scrimmage and they're creating holes for the running backs to get through. And I'm curious, do you think the Seahawks even stand a chance to slow them down, even with DeAndre Swift likely being out? I know Mike hinted at it earlier, saying that, hell, we might be able to run through there. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that the Lions can be consistent without DeAndre Swift and have a successful run game?
That's the big reason when people were talking about the Lions run game the first 2 weeks. It's because, DeAndre Swift was there. He was healthy. He was playing, the majority of the snaps back there. Week 3 was a little different. I think he only played 41% of the offensive snaps in that game. He came out with a shoulder injury or an ankle injury. He had to get checked out on the sideline. And when he was out, Jamal Williams came in and did his thing, but he's also not the most efficient guy. I think he averaged around 4 yards a carry. He kind of had to work for those 80 yards. It wasn't the massive holes that we were used to seeing in week 1 and week 2. Like I tweeted a couple screenshots of the all 22 from the Commanders game. I mean, Tom Izzo could have run through some of those holes that the Lions were creating. It was insane. I think it kind of depends. Obviously, I don't think Swift is going to play, and he was averaging, I think, like 8 yards carry, something crazy like that, like before last week. So, the efficiency might take a hit there. Jamal's going to have to work for some of those yards. He's not as explosive. Swift had, 2 50-yard runs in week 1, week 2. So that kind of helped too. So, I guess we'll see. I haven't really seen a full game with Jamal as a lead back. Swift was still kind of involved this last week. So, the offensive line, I think they're good enough to kind of produce for him. And, but I will say the Vikings kind of made things, a little bit more difficult for this run game. That was really the first time they were tested. The Lions were stopped short on a couple of, 4th and 1, 3rd and 1 runs, which we weren't used to seeing. So I think it might be a little tougher without a guy like Swift. I mean, that's easy to say, but I still think they feel confident in the guys they have back there. So we'll see.
This is going to be a fun matchup because the Seahawks really want to improve on stopping the run, and they haven't proven anything as of lately. I'm finishing up the defensive film today, but started half of last night. I'm thinking, yo, do you guys not just want to tackle? You guys aren't filling in gaps. Safeties aren't where they're supposed to be. I'm puzzled, and knowing what the Lions want to do, I'm thinking it's just going to be what the San Francisco 49ers tried to do, but maybe even better because right now the Lions are 3rd in rushing attack, and they look really good doing it. So, and you kind of alluded to that. So, yeah, it's going to be fun to see for sure. Maybe I should change my score. 31-20 seems, man, I don't know if it'll be that far, but nonetheless, I do want to talk about the sun god, and that is Amon-Ra St. Brown, because he has exploded on the scene. And I remember you're doing fantasy football, right, Colton?
I am, yeah.
So one of my good friends, he took Amon maybe in like the 3rd round, and I was like, yo, there are other receivers on the board. What are you doing? And I wasn't the only one. I think everyone that was there for the live draft had something to say about my boy taking him 3rd overall. So far, he's looking like that was a great pick. Right now, he's at 23 catches, over 250 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I know you mentioned that ankle injury, but he might not miss time. If he does play, talk about the impact he will have against the Seahawks DBs, who are young and not young. You only got one rookie on the right end, and that's Tariq Woolen. But Michael Jackson's been a veteran. He's a veteran, and he's been around the game a little bit. But talk about what he can bring in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't hate taking him in the third round because I mean he's proven that's a good pick right there. I was telling my friends to draft him like fourth round probably. I think he was going like fifth or sixth, but I mean, yeah, the things that he can do on the field, he's like no doubt the Lions' number one receiver, which is crazy because he was a fourth round pick last year, and he's out here breaking NFL records and at age 22, I think. So what he's done so far early in his career has been nothing short of impressive, but he is dealing with the ankle injury. He left at some point. I think it was the second quarter in that game against the Vikings. I saw him on the sideline, was kind of watching him, and was getting taped up pretty heavily. Was testing it out on the sidelines, kind of jumping around, trying to test it out. Ended up coming back in the game, but wasn't really explosive like we've seen from him. So if he is forced to miss some time, that'll be a big loss for the Lions. Again, he's their number one target. Jared Goff usually throws him like 12 times a game.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing, because we haven't really seen it was a little bit better against the Vikings, but these secondary pass catchers that the Lions have, like Josh Reynolds and DJ Chark and TJ Hawkinson, they haven't really been super involved the first couple of weeks, just because Amon-Ra was doing his thing and breaking records. But I do think this is probably a big week to try to get those guys more involved, even if Amon-Ra does end up playing, because you're going to need those guys to contribute more down the road. So I think Goff said he's not really forcing things or not trying to force things to St. Brown, but you can definitely tell that he favors that dude, and rightfully so. He's a dog, but at the same time, it's like some of these other guys need to get more involved. So I think this could be the week where we see, DJ Chark. They had great chemistry in training camp, but we haven't really seen that since, when the season started. So I would maybe guess to take some deep shots with him and try him downfield. Josh Reynolds is a good over the middle guy. I think he'll get more involved. And then TJ Hawkinson's kind of had a slow start to the season. He had a touchdown last week, but other than that, wasn't really making much of an impact. So maybe they try to work him into the passing game a little bit more, even if Amon-Ra ends up playing.
So let me just put it this way: would you say the Seahawks DBs, Kobe Bryant, Mike Jack, and Tariq Woolen have the advantage, or Amon-Ra St. God, or the Sun God?
Yeah, if he plays, I would still like the Lions receivers.
Damn.
I like what they're doing in the passing game a lot. It's just I don't know how effective he's going to be, even if he plays. And he's a dude that's probably going to try to tough it out. So I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up out there playing, but he might only be 75%. So, how good is Amon-Ra St. Brown at 75%? I'm not really sure. We haven't really seen that. So it might end up being a push if he's out or is not fully effective. But
Sun God, please have a healthy ankle come Sunday, man. I want to see this.
It's a good matchup, yeah.
The clip is floating around where it's Amon-Ra St. Brown is talking about dude from the Commanders. I think what's his name? Dynamite, something like that.
Diami, yeah.
I feel bad messing up their brother's name, but anyway, he was taken above Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Diami Brown.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. He was taken above Sun God in the draft, and Sun God had something to say about it. What was he asked to prompt him to throw that shade at the other dude?
I'm trying to remember. Like, honestly, it doesn't take much to set him off. Like, I don't know if you guys saw in Hard Knocks where they asked St. Brown, like, to name all the receivers that were drafted ahead of him.
He
like,
did.
he could do that, like, on the spot. Like, that draft day was hell for him. That was a nightmare, falling to the fourth round. But I don't even know what it was. I think someone asked him if he feels the respect. And he's like, I mean, I'm always going to play with that chip on my shoulder. Like, and he just brought up unprompted, I think. Like, no one asked him, like, yo, what do you have to say about Diami Brown? Like,
right, because you guys aren't.
No one knows Diami Brown. Like, no offense to him, but like that wasn't on our minds. He just brought him up. He's like, yeah, I think they have a player. And it's like, he said, I think. It's like, man, like, stop playing. He's like, I think they have a guy over there, Diami Brown, who's drafted ahead of me. I don't know how he played. Maybe you guys can look at his numbers, but I didn't see him out there much. It's like, bro. So I mean, that's who he is, though. Like, it might come off a little corny to some people, but like being around him, like, that's who he is. He's out there catching 202 passes on the jugs machine like every single day. His dad is like a former like Mr. Olympia, like a bodybuilder, like has instilled this like crazy work ethic in him like from day one. So that's what got him to the NFL, and it's not going to change. But I mean, that's who he is. He'll take shots at like whoever. He doesn't really care. For us, it's kind of funny, but I can see how maybe some other people might feel some type of way about him.
No, I enjoyed that clip. I actually like when guys are that way and you can tell it's authentic. I think the other example I could think of off the top of my head is that Draymond Green can name everyone who was drafted ahead of him. I think he was like the 35th pick or something like that. Can name
second
all the
round
guys.
guy.
Yeah, second round guy for sure, and can name all the. That's that's legit. You know, that those guys carry that for real, and they really do never forget. I joke about Jamal Adams tweeting that he doesn't forget all the guys drafted above him. He was like the 6th pick. It was like, dude, no one forgets everyone that was drafted ahead of you, man. It was five guys, but I did like that about him and Amon-Ra St. Brown, because Colton in Seattle. The Seahawks that draft had the 56th pick. They only had 3 picks because of the Jamal Adams trade and some other trades that they made. They took D. Eskridge with that pick, receiver out of Western Michigan. And here, the issue is the fans really wanted, because Seahawks have had O-line issues, they really wanted the Seahawks to take Creed Humphrey, who obviously went to the Chiefs and then became like all-pro or something like that his first year. Meanwhile, D got a concussion in his first game and then just kind of wasn't a factor in the offense. So it was like, dang, we could have got maybe one of the best centers in football. Instead, we've got a number 3 receiver who, for whatever reason, is not helping us. And over time, I've been telling people, like, yeah, that's a fair critique. But it's like, I actually like taking a receiver at that point, because 3 receiver sets are your base offense. So investing in a third one is fine, especially if they're on the cheap, while DK and Tyler are making a bunch of money. I've been telling people lately, guys, the Creed Humphrey thing, forget about that. They should have took this Amon-Ra St. Brown kid in the 2nd round, because he is cold. And I remembered how cold he was. Me and Chris were just talking about this. He was cold against the Seahawks last year.
Destroyed him.
And then now, I mean, he probably obviously wants to go off every game, but I was like, oh, now it makes sense. They took D. Eskridge over him. It was personal, and it's probably going to be personal every time he plays these guys, because I know the Seahawks scouted him like extensively, because, you know, a lot of Pete Carroll's staff is still from he was at USC, and Pete's still an SC guy. Like, he'll bring them up unprompted every once in a while. Like, he had a lot of success there, and I know they scouted him. I think the issue, my theory is that they over scouted. You know, when you know too much about somebody, it's kind of why I don't draft any Seahawks in fantasy usually, because I overthink, you know, how well they're going to do, because I watch them in training camp, like you said, 5-6 times a week. I'm like, let me back off. Like, I never drafted Russ in fantasy. I think the Seahawks did that. They were like, we know too much about this kid. We overthink it. Let's take this Eskridge kid. Boy, Sun God's going to make them pay every week. Every time, man, because that boy he's 9th in receiving yards, 4th in receptions, tied for 2nd in touchdown catches. He's 21st in yards per route run, which is one of my favorite nerdy stats for receivers. 21st doesn't sound crazy, but you know who's 22nd? Cooper Kupp. You know, so that puts that stat in context for you guys. And Colton, if I had this right, he's lining up in the slot a lot, but it seems like when he's out wide, he's cooking dudes too, right?
Yeah, you can put him really anywhere. I think it's the fact that they have 2 big body guys in DJ and Josh Reynolds that they put him in the slot, but no, he can get some work out in the outside too. So I don't know, but you mentioned, you know, I guess the Seahawks taking him over Amon-Ra, but I think now that I'm remembering, I think what, you know, prompted him to bring up De'Ami Brown was he was more taking a shot at the Commanders, and so he's like, every team that passed on me, that's who I want to go out. I want to kill them like every single week. So if you do have a receiver that you took over him in that draft, he's going to try to. He remembers that, like, that doesn't leave his mind. So that might be an issue this week. I don't know.
I expect him to. Let's look at the Lions defense, because they got their hands full, literally. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. DK's had a little slow start, but we saw he woke up a little bit against the Falcons last week. But I'm curious, the Lions lose their probably one of their best defensive players in Tracy Walker. Yep. Who is going to step in to fill the void, and how impactful was he? Was he more in the run game, or was he kind of the hybrid, doing run things and also being able to help in the pass?
A little bit of everything. I mean, Tracy was playing some really good football before he got hurt, and he's kind of like the captain of that defense. So that's a big loss, man. Like, just the communication that he provides as a veteran. Like, he was around when some of those other dudes from the secondary were kind of teaching him the ropes, like Darius Slay and guys like that, like the veterans that he came into the league with. So he's kind of wanted to pay it forward and become that guy for some of these younger DBs. And so when you lose a guy like that, it was already a suspect secondary to begin with. Now you lose your best player and your best, leader on that defense. It's always tough. And, I don't really know how this match is going to go, because DK and Tyler can still get things going for the offense. And, I think Jeff Okudah has played pretty well for the Lions. Like they have to be happy with him coming off the Achilles injury, but the rest of the secondary is kind of a mess. I would expect Juju Hughes to fill in for Tracy at safety, but he hasn't really provided much over his career, so he'll get his first I guess big chance this week. Amani Oriarie, I don't know if I said that right, but he's their other starting corner on the other side. He got 6 penalties in that Vikings game. 6. I think he's currently PFF's like lowest graded cornerback out of 102 players.
Damn.
So that might be a bit of an issue this week. So we'll see. I don't trust the secondary at all to get the job done.
He is target number 1. Oh boy.
Yeah. What's his jersey number? I'm gonna be looking out for him on film.
24.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go look for 24 on film. Good. 6 penalties is a lot. I'd pull you.
A lot. I don't know if all of them are warranted, but even if it's 4 out of 6, like that's still a lot, man.
Yeah,
like, he's getting cooked out there, so he's got to be better.
What did AD say in his presser? Getting cooked.
Yeah, that's a little rough. With Okudah, I remember being at the combine that year, watching him and thinking this dude is about to be locked down. Like I remember them just fawning over him on NFL Network. How much smoother he looked in position drills and a lot of the corners in that 2020 draft. Like I was like, oh, this dude's gonna be real. And as I'm sure you've researched and learned and talked to people, that he has not been real. He's not been out there. Yeah. To start his career. But then I was looking up some of his stats. Like he's their best corner and the Lions' best corner in yards allowed per coverage stat or per coverage snap, which is it's like the opposite of yards per route run for my non-nerds. It's a very important stat. It takes into account just how often you're asked to cover somebody versus how many yards you are giving up. So like, is he locked down now that he's healthy? How's he been looking?
He's looked really good. I think this is probably best case scenario for the Lions because they weren't really sure what they're going to get from him. Like his first year, he was banged up. I think he only played like 9 or 10 games, and that was coming off a COVID year. Didn't really have a full offseason. Matt Patricia was coaching him on that team, so you kind of gave him a pass for his rookie year. Last year, when I talked to some guys, it didn't seem like he had the best training camp coming into his second year. And then in like the first game of week 1, like he kind of blows out his Achilles and is done for the season. So, third overall pick, a lot of hype, and I don't think Lions fans were like totally on board with that pick anyway when it happened, like taking a corner so high. I think some of them wanted a quarterback back then. I think they would have been fine with Tua or Justin Herbert at the time.
Oh, I forgot they passed on both. They passed on both of those guys for Okudah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah. So, I get it. He came in with like a lot of pressure, and then the 2 injuries, like no one really knew what you were going to get from him. So came back this training camp, was looking good in practice at times, but also was getting beat over the top. And we're just kind of like, what are the Lions going to get from him? Do they need to move him to safety or something, like just to kind of make something of that pick? No one really knew, but he won the starting cornerback job, was battling it out against Will Harris, beat him out, got the starting nod, and he's looked really good, really solid so far. I think most of the passes he's allowed are, stuff in front of him. I haven't really seen him get beat over the top many times at all, which is good. And he's a good tackler, so he's kind of coming up. When he does allow like a 5-yard hitch, he's usually like right there. So, I think they have to like what they've been getting from him so far. He's played like the best corner on this team. Not quite at that number 3 overall level that you're kind of expecting, but I think there's still some hope that he can maybe get there. And if not, even if he's just like a solid starting corner, I think you take that based on, the first 2 years and how those went. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even if he's just a solid starting corner against DK, it'll probably be a different, result than last year when DK, I think, was just barbecuing everybody.
Yeah.
I really wanted the Seahawks to take F.A. How you say his name? Ife
Melifonwu.
Melifonwu. Is he playing safety now?
Yeah, they switched him from corner safety. Yeah.
Yes, I really liked him, and DK just gave him the blues. In that game last.
That might have been why they switched him then.
Yeah, it was bad. It was like goal line fades, just everything. It was rough. I'm gonna put you on the spot here with the last Jeff Okudah question. Who do you like, based on what you've seen from him, and obviously what you know about DK? Who you like in this one, DK or Jeff?
Oof. That's a good question because he's played really well. Like he was covering Justin Jefferson pretty well last week. And
2 catches, right? That's it. 13 yards.
Yeah, and I need to dig more into the numbers to see like how often he was actually covering him versus he plays one side, so it kind of depends on who's over there. But he looked really good. I mean, even in week 2 against the Commanders, like they got some good receivers with Terry McLaurin and those boys over there. So he's been holding his own in every game. So I mean, DK is a dude, like no doubt, but.
He's a dude.
I guess we'll see. This is a good test for him because if those two guys are with each other the entire game, I think Jeff will win his battles, but I think DK will get him a couple times too. So we'll see.
Silly old me. We were talking about the sun god, and I forgot the most important question: over or under. So every time we bring up one of the star-studded guys on these teams, we do a little over under. So I am on the 85% chance that he plays. I don't know how you're feeling, Colton. What are you thinking?
I think that's about right. 80, 85. Yeah.
So with that, he's going to play. So if he's 90 to 95% healthy, we'll start there. Receiving yards, 80.5. Are you going over or under against the Seahawks defense?
I'll probably go over.
You didn't even hesitate. I'll probably go over.
He had, I think, 60-something yards last week, and that was on a bad ankle. So
exactly.
If he's a little bit healthier, we'll see. I think he can get the over, but ask me, like, I wish we were doing this podcast tomorrow because I could tell if he's practicing, and that would tell me if he's actually going to play this week probably. But
I'm going to just DM you or hit you on Twitter, man. We can keep it up. It's all good. Hey, Cole, man, how's he looking out there? Oh, Chris, he's ready to roll, man. He's definitely going over.
What is he averaging for the year? Like 84 yards or something like that? Again, 83, something like that. Like that's a good over. He's on pace, I think, for like 1,400 yards or something like that.
I mean, if he's playing, Goff's going to feed him. So he'll get like 8 catches. That's usually the standard for him. He had only had 6 last week, but that was the first time in like 8 or 9 games that he didn't get 8 catches. So I think he can get to 80 yards if he's playing and productive out there.
I like that kid, man. I wish, as you can see, we spend a lot of time on that dude. There's some players in the Lions I like. I'm a Lions fan now, so I mean, I have all this research done on the Lions. It's like Tuesday morning. It's some of the stuff I already know, man. Like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I can't wait to watch the Lions all 22 and just see what they're doing offensively, especially with the run game, and then see what they're trying to do defensively, and see how they're gonna fill some holes against this Seahawks offense. It's really gonna be a fun matchup. I feel like this should be the Sunday night game. I mean, that's where I'm at with it.
The Lions have 0 primetime games this year, so.
Oh, really? Oh, man. Okay.
Not a single one.
They're going to get some based off this season. I guarantee it next year for sure. Yeah. Lastly, we haven't talked much about the battle in the trenches too much. And you have Aidan Hutchinson. Where was he taken? Colton, do you remember where he got drafted?
Second overall. And then he's going up against, Charles Cross. Where was he taken, Mike?
Ooh, ninth, right? Yeah.
Look at that. You think Charles has a little chip on his shoulder thinking, yeah, man, they took him a little high. I thought I could have been number 2. Maybe not. But I'm definitely interested to see how these two square off. Does Aidan move a lot on the D-line? Does he move around edge to edge?
They more move him inside, like to defensive tackle on like passing downs to try to get more of a rush out there. So they do move him around a little bit, yeah.
How do you think his rookie impact has been, and how do you see him going up against Charles Cross? Who has the match? Who wins that matchup?
Yeah, he was pretty invisible in week 1 against the Eagles, but that's a great offensive line, so it's hard to fault him there. And also Jalen Hurts was just every time they had something, they had him bottle up. He would just kind of scramble and get outside the pocket. So that was a little tough in week 1. Week 2, he came back with 3 sacks against the Commanders. And I don't think the Commanders' offensive line is that good right now. I think last week they gave up a lot of sacks too.
The Commanders are just not very good right now.
Yeah, so it's hard. It's like, what are you really getting,
Yeah.
I think Aiden's at his best when like the dudes around him are helping him out because I don't think he's good enough right now to just, go and win all these one-on-one matchups and get 3 sacks by himself. Like the way he got those 3 sacks in week 2, a lot of stunts, he left him open on some, good coverage downfield or, just 5 rushers that are all attacking Carson Wentz, and he ends up cleaning things up at the end. So that's really how he got there in week 2. Last week, he didn't really do a ton. Honestly, like the pass rush was kind of a disappointment against the Vikings. I thought that was one of the reasons why they kind of lost that game. They didn't really get much pressure on Kirk Cousins. And when you do that, you're going to win more often than not. And they didn't really do that. So, this will be a big test. I think they do need to bounce back. I think Aaron Glenn will probably be more aggressive than he was in week 3. So I think we'll send some guys and try to get Geno a little rattled out there. But in terms of the matchup with Cross, I guess we'll see how often those guys are against each other. But
yeah,
I think it'll be a good battle. Like I like Cross coming out of the draft. Aidan still has some work to do, so I don't know. Maybe it's two guys still finding their way in the rookie years, but I like that battle a lot, though. That should be fun to watch.
Damn, there are so many appealing matchups. Now that I think about it, there's just so much crossfire that guys going head to head. And you usually don't see that a lot in football, but you see it more in basketball, more so because it's 5-on-5, not 11-on-11. But in this game, there's just a lot of key matchups that can, tip the scale just a little bit. Either way you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the premium positions are the premium positions, for the most part. It's because they're often tasked with beating someone directly across from them, more often than not, whether you're a tackle or an edge or a corner or a receiver. Those are the premium positions for a reason, because if you can beat the dude across from you consistently, you're going to get paid and your team's going to win games by and large, except for the quarterback. I think that's one of the reasons those are the 4 toughest positions to play.
Yep.
I think maybe not edge, but definitely tackle, corner, and probably receiver. Those are pretty tough. Yeah. If the Lions don't get some pressure, boy, their numbers go down. So that's good news for the Seahawks. Yeah, I was looking at some Lions defensive numbers. They got some weird numbers, as you know, man. They're like a bad overall defense. Like they're bad in points per drive. They're bad in run defense. They give up a lot of explosive plays. Just about the same as many as the Seahawks, who give up a ton, but they get a lot of pressure. It's like, what? They're like 12th in sacks, 9th in pressure rate. I was like, man, how are they doing all this? And I was like, oh, they're blitzing at the 3rd highest rate in the league.
Yeah.
So who's their DC?
Aaron Glenn.
Yeah.
Yes. Was he with the Saints?
He was, yeah.
Yeah. So is he just is he on
he loves to blitz?
Is Todd Bowles in the Todd Bowles just blitz the hell out the other team plan?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's what he has to do. He doesn't really have the full talent collection that he would probably like, so he's got to mix and match and move guys around. So I would definitely expect him to send the house a few times there.
All right, what this is how much of a nerd I am about this matchup. The Seahawks are actually missing. They're probably going to be missing their best pass protecting running back in Travis Homer, which it seems like a minor loss in the
That's huge.
But when you're playing a team that blitzes at the 3rd highest rate, you need your pass protector in there as the extra guy to pick up those blitzes, especially if they're exotic blitzes. You're right, Chris. There's a ton of interesting matchups. I don't know if it's enough for Sunday Night Football or nothing. But
do it, Mike. I'm all in, man. I'm in.
I think the Sunday night game what's the Sunday night game this week? I feel like it's way better.
Oh, it's better, but I wouldn't be opposed if they're like, hey, Lions, Seahawks, what do you guys think? You know what? Let's do it.
Flex them in, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
Sunday night game. Is it Bucks Chiefs? That's Sunday night game?
Let me just look for you. Hang on. Let's see. I think
it's Bucks Chiefs. Because it's supposed to be like a tornado or some hurricane or some Florida shit down there that's supposed to potentially derail the game, and it was going to get moved.
Well, that's even more of the reason to give the Seahawks and the Lions an opportunity. You just said yourself, potential hurricane. So it is actually Thursday night. So Sunday night you have Chiefs and Bucks.
Yeah, the hurricane or whatever was potentially supposed to derail it, but I'm sure some NBC executive was like, no. There's a hurricane or not, build a goddamn dome or something and play the game. You know how much money Brady and Mahomes is on primetime? Come on, man. That's that NBC executive ain't gonna be driving a Tesla off putting the Lions and the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football.
It'll be a bunch of scoring, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, there should be some scoring.
I just realized we haven't talked about my guy Kem Walker. How's he doing out there? MSU guy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
outside of running the wrong way, running play.
There's good Ken, and then there's still a rookie Ken. He didn't play a lot in the preseason because he had a hernia injury, but he looks really explosive. Like he took they had a really bad trick play against the Niners in week 2. Not the one that ends up being an interception. The play before that, they have a wildcat formation where it's 4 running backs with Ken taking the direct snap, doing zone read. He makes the wrong read. And 2 linemen crash on him in the backfield, but he makes both of them miss and ends up picking up 5 yards, which is incredible.
That's what he does. Yeah,
I'll tag you. I tweeted the clip. He's really impressive. But then he also had a play in that game where they're in the pistol and Geno Smith goes to hand it to him to the left, I think, and Ken runs to the right. So then Geno has to just eat that, and they end up punting. And then the same thing happened on Sunday against the Falcons. Geno goes to hand it to him, and then Ken runs the wrong way. And then Geno has to eat it, so it's just like, okay, he is.
So he's learning. He's
still a rookie. But then he had they ran a really cool play out of 21 personnel. That's 2 running backs from my non-nerds, 2 running backs and 1 tight end. They had 2 receivers, but instead of a fullback, which is usually what you use in that situation, it was Rashad Penny and Ken with Ken like to the slot, and he came across on a fly sweep, and Geno handed it to him, and I think Ken took it 21 yards.
Yeah, it was a big play.
Reverse field. So you can see it. As I said, there's good Ken, and then there's still the rookie Ken. Soon as he learns how to go the right way on every run play.
That's all. Yeah.
It's gonna be a problem.
And you know what's been really impressive? He's pass protecting really well, and he can catch.
Okay.
And as you know,
that was the one thing I was worried about. He didn't really catch a lot of balls at MSU, so I was kind of worried how that would translate to the NFL. I didn't know if it was MSU just not using him in the passing game, or if they just didn't think he was good enough. But I mean, that's good that he's kind of developing there.
Yep. Yeah. No, the PKO has said he's been very frank with player evaluations, but perhaps because he's got a really young roster. But he was like, yeah, Ken wasn't really that great in pass protection, coming out of college. So we were a little concerned about that. And then someone followed up. It's like, well, what was wrong with his pass protection? He was just like, he just wasn't blocking guys. It's like, oh, well, okay then. But since then, they figured it out. They work with his technique, and he's got the want to block. So that's been helpful. And then, like I said, he's been catching, like, some of the plays have been designed to go to him in the pass game. Like, that's how effective it's been. So yeah, again, once he just be on the same page with Geno, even if it gets to the point where they call the play and like, Ken, we're running this to the left. That's it. Yeah. Like, if he has to do that before the snap, whatever it is, because I think he's going to get to the point where probably by week 13, 14, he's going to be splitting with Rashad legitimately, like you see Tony Pollard and Zeke or AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. Like,
is that the vision?
That's the vision. Who else does that? There's another team that does that really well, where they split their 2 guys. But I think those 2 examples are the ones that pop out in my head, like where you just have a 2-back system. You can run stuff with both of them on the field at the same time, so you don't have to alternate. Like, I think that's the vision. Just got to go the right way on every play.
There you go. I bet we'll see some of his jerseys in the crowd here in Detroit. So
that's love. Okay.
Yeah. No, he was so good there. When I talked to some of the coaches there after they drafted him, and they were just like, dog, this kid can. The thing they liked about him before we get out of here with Ken is they liked that he could score whenever he touches the ball. Yeah. Like, it doesn't really matter if we have 1st and 10 to 25. He hits this hole right, and he could score from here.
Yeah.
Like, that is what they like about him. Because Rashad can do that too. Rashad had like a bunch of 50, 60-yard runs last season. They see the same thing. Chris Carson was fantastic, but he got hawked down every once in a while because he was a bigger, bullier dude. They think Ken's one cut, gone.
Yeah.
He could go 80 yards. So, yeah.
He covered up so much for MSU. Like, their offensive line probably wasn't that good last year, but he made them look a lot better than they were. Now they're a mess. They can't run the ball. So, I mean, he might have gotten Mel some money last year, like, just based on what he did. So, yeah, they still love him out here.
Yeah, no, he's a likable dude too. We haven't gotten to know him a bunch because, like, the team's bad right now. So, like, getting to know each guy and writing about him is not the thing. It's more like, why is the run D bad? But from what we know about Ken, man, no, he's gonna be a dude once he just gets back in the groove, and because he can score from anywhere. So, yeah, we got anything else, Chris?
Nah, man, we want to thank you for rocking with us this morning. We appreciate your time, man. Thank you, Colton.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, that's another episode of Seahawks Man to Man podcast. Thank you guys for subscribing on YouTube, watching on Spotify, Apple, The Athletic, everywhere. That is our guest, Colton Pouncy. Make sure you subscribe to The Athletic and check out his work. Follow him on Twitter. Hold on real quick, Colton. Where's your shout out your Twitter real fast before we get you out of here?
Yeah, at Colton_Pouncy, COLTON_POUNCY.
There you go. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Colton. I will see you in Detroit, and we will catch you guys after the game on Sunday. Peace.